It is another beautiful day in West Central Wisconsin, and welcome to episode 107 of Banging on the Drum. Please remember to like, subscribe, download. We have a YouTube channel, subscribe to that. We have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So if you
So
could,
we're asking a lot of you here. Just do it. It's only like 15 or 20 things.
yeah, not too much, not too much to ask for, like Mike just said, but just like and subscribe to at least one of them, and we will
Yeah.
appreciate the support there. But I'm your host, P Dog. Last week I was PJ Smooth, joined along with my co-host M Dog. Last week he was Baby Girl. Uh, but
Oh yeah.
oh yeah. But yeah, if you guys could do that for us, we would very much appreciate it. I was at a dinner party tonight and I got us 2 new subscribers to our YouTube channel.
So
Family members.
did you steal their phone?
No, they are just very supportive people. And I guess they didn't realize I had a podcast. I could have swore they knew that I did. Because one is my aunt and uncle so it was my aunt out of the aunt and uncle where I was staying with while I was over here when I first initially got over here. And I'm pretty sure I recorded. No, I never recorded at their house. So yeah, it makes sense. Like why I was pretty sure they knew we had a podcast, but apparently they didn't. And once they found out, they were like, "Oh, that's so cool!" Like, and then started speaking Portuguese and stuff. They're probably talking shit, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Like this fucking moron's got a podcast. Like who is going to listen to that? But that's good. See, I think when we initially started this, you wanted to like hold off rolling out our stuff, and I think that could have been slightly beneficial because of that. Right? So when we roll
Yeah,
stuff out, we could have been really bad, right? And we told everybody about it, and then they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like we'll try to listen." Like, and then we're not good. But if you hold off until you get a little bit better, we might have been able to gain a little bit more traction.
it
Not
was
probably
a.
not a ton more, but a little bit, right?
It definitely is a double-edged sword. So I think the way
Yep.
we went was kind of the better way to go because I think we would have just been sitting on stuff for so long. But then I also don't think it helped us, which I think this is weird to say, that we got Chris Jackie so early.
Yeah, I
And
think I would
then
agree with that.
and then we haven't just been able to get anybody else on there until Damian Miller. And then I thought we did all right with Damian Miller. But I think when we initially got Chris Jackie, there were people, it was like super early, and they were like, well, they're already pulling pro
Yeah,
athletes.
that's true.
And
Yeah.
then, like, if that's what you're tuning in for, we've definitely went downhill from there. But with the
Yep.
other
Yep.
stuff, like the lulls in talking, the swearing so much, like because if you go back and listen to some of our early episodes, like
Yeah.
we are just
And you cut a lot of
swearing
that
just to
stuff out
swear.
too. You cut a
Yeah,
lot of stuff out of there too.
yeah. I
I was
used to.
really using fuck as quite a bit. I remember my mom told me like it was not good, like that I needed to clean it up. And I was like, "Mom, that's just who I am." And she was like, "That's not a good person to be," or something like that. Like to just be using that word left and right. And I still do. And like I'll use it in front of them and stuff, but like she's not very fond of that word.
Yeah, but I do think it was more of like a nervous twitch to it, a little bit of that. But yeah, it was real bad earlier, and we still, I guess, swear a little bit, but it's not like those first episodes. Like
Yeah.
you listen to the first episodes, it reminds me of like watching Jay and Silent Bob. We might have those boys covered in saying fuck the most amount of times in like an hour and a half.
So I remember like guys our age were like, does Mike actually just talk like that? Like that's the way he is, like the F word, every other word, right? And so, and honestly, I really kind of am. And maybe it is like a nerves thing. And if I have nerves in a space that I'm allowed to use the F word, then it comes out like crazy.
Yeah, and it just is what it is. And I think you dropped the F word pretty casually, like so it doesn't hurt your ears that much. But then listening back to it, it's it just is worse listening back to it. It's like talking to a British person. Like they just swear like crazy, but it like just kind of sounds nice. So you kind of got that going
And
for you. It's like,
it's not necessarily our traditional swear words, right? In got the
oh, when a
people who
British
speak
person's saying it, yeah,
British English, right? It's a little bit different. Like they
yeah,
use the word cunt all the time and things that we would never like dream of putting on the air.
yeah. And it's just like more cleverly used, or not even more cleverly used, but like it just makes sense in context, and you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good to go.
All right, moving on from this. How'd your week go or your weekend? I guess we recorded Thursday and now we're gonna jump again here on Wednesday. So
Yeah. So as
say
of
Wednesday or
last,
Tuesday?
it
Wednesday,
is
maybe.
Wednesday, and probably by the time we're done with this, it's gonna be Thursday. Um, but yeah, my week's been going pretty dang well. So I'm gonna start with my under for the week. And the last time you guys heard from me, I was out on a boat like pretty much all day, hanging out, and then I got sunburned to shit. I did not know the extent of my sunburn when I was talking to people before, but it was really bad. And it wasn't even the pain for the sunburn. It was just like the embarrassing amount of sunburn that I had. Like, so like when I would be talking to people, like skin would just be like peeling off my forehead and stuff.
Ooh,
And
that's a bad one.
yeah, no, it was real bad. Like if I was willing to take my shirt off and show you guys my shoulders right now, you'd be like, oh, that looks like it hurts. But it
Did you get
really does.
blisters?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't even think of them as blisters until you just
Right.
said that. But like, yeah, my shoulders kind of started bubbling a little bit. But yeah, so that was pretty bad. But like I said, it was just more of like the embarrassment of getting that burn that hurt me more than the sunburn itself. But like I said, that was last week. And then I was heading to a Biloxi Shuckers, the Brewers AA minor league team versus the Blue Wahoos, the Miami Marlins minor league team. And I was going to that game basically just to see Jackson Chiro, and also to show my mother-in-law from Brazil some like true Americana type shit. Like I think that's like where you would go. It's like minor league baseball.
Yeah, that's probably a good assessment of that.
Yeah. But I was looking for Jackson Chiro like when I showed up. And I was looking before and I was like, he's not in the lineup. I was like, there must be something wrong going on in this game that he's not there. And then like where my seats were, I could look into the dugout pretty well. So I was looking for number 11 because he's number 11 on this team. Couldn't see him anywhere. Anyways, long story short, he was at the AA All-Star game. So they don't cut the this season. So
Season.
they
Okay.
so yeah, so they just take the all-stars off these double league teams and make them keep playing, which whatever. I'm not mad at that at all. But anyways, the day before we went to the game, he hit a home run, had a good game, and whatever. But leading directly into my over, like the game was super fun. There's a guy named Collins that plays left field and leads off for the Shuckers, hit 2 bombs. The
Nice.
catcher, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. He was hitting like 0.085 because I remember I was explaining to my wife, I was like, that's not very good. But he hit a homer and then his average jumped up to like 170. And then I had to
Oh, okay.
explain to her, like, I was like, well, he probably hasn't had that many at bats to
Right.
do that. And then he had another hit and his average was like over 200. And I was like, yeah, he's not as bad as I told you that he was at
Right.
hitting the ball. So he had a hell of a game, and I seen he started getting interviewed about the game and stuff afterwards, and it was pretty good. So it looks like that kid's going to be pretty good. The Collins guy is going to be pretty good. Black was not a black guy, so I found that out.
Interesting.
When I was telling you about the black guy on the team, he's actually a
Yeah.
white guy, and
Named Black.
and he's good. He's good. So we got some good AA ball players for sure. But it was a wild game. I want to say it ended like 10-8. I was pretty drunk by the end of the game. There was some, little league type shit that happened in the game. I say little league type shit, but it was high school, maybe like stuff you don't expect out of like professionals.
Yeah. Yep. I get what you're saying. So what did they do at the game that was unique? So most minor league baseball teams do something kind of fun or clever, like goofy, in order to pull people in. Did they do anything?
Yeah. So I was getting up to go get a beer, and the line was just outrageously long. I was like, this line is longer than the amount of people that I've seen in the stadium so far. Like if I look across the stands and shit, like this line has more than the amount of people in there. So they have this thing called a roach run. And there's this dude dressed up as a roach in that like goes out in the outfield, and then they just let all of the kids in the stadium chase this guy across the outfield to try to catch him. I don't know what they get if they catch him,
They
which
probably can't. I mean, it's like a no chance, right? It's like the Flash, like the guy's like a Olympic type sprinter. Or the freeze.
you
The freeze.
you
Atlanta
thought
does the
that, yeah,
freeze.
the freeze, and that makes sense to me because he's racing against like you and me, like that, like if you
Yeah, but he
or
gives them
I,
like 90 feet too, and he's just got to.
but
They're running
still,
like the fence line.
it's like people with fully developed brains, like willing to sign up for that
Yeah, yeah.
punishment or whatever. Not that it was like a punishment or anything. But anyways, I fully expected this roach to just like fall over in center field and like the kids to like come and tag him. But
Yeah.
dude was just a dickhead. He was playing with these kids, and he's got to run from right field to left field, not across the warning track like the freeze.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and he just dusted these kids. There was literally kids leaving out the gate with like the optimism in their face, like
I'm
that
gonna
I
catch him.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that I wish I could have in my life. And he was already off the field. Like there was like 2-year-olds like coming out, and yeah,
I'm
they
gonna catch him, and he's walking out the gate on the other side.
yeah, but no one caught him. So I don't know what happens if you catch that guy, but I guess
You
that
get to
was like
kill him.
kind
It's a
of unique.
cockroach, so you just get to. He's dead.
That would be pretty cool. Like you just get
No, it
this
wouldn't. It'd be a
see, see
bunch of kids
death,
kill a dude.
see death in a man's eyes for the first time. But yeah, then other than that, they had I don't know, the Brewers definitely kicked off the race thing. And I can't even remember what raced, but there was four things racing each other, like a
Oh yeah,
beer
like
bottle.
like the sausage race.
Yeah. So yeah, and they definitely ripped that. But the roach race, I'd never seen that before. Definitely didn't think it was gonna go down the way that it went down. Because like I said, I think the oldest kid chasing him might have been 12. So
Yeah,
I thought
that
it was gonna
makes
be a little
sense.
more everybody gets trophy-ish, but good time. That's all I got. Great, great week for me.
All right, so I'll start with my under, and it's gonna like sound like a pretty cool over to start with, but I went whitewater tubing is the best way that I can kind of describe it. And so I'll get into what that is. But I lost my sunglasses, which were free, so that's not like the end of the world. And then I lost a hat, which I got for free, which also not the end of the world, but it was a little disappointing. Lost my hat on the first go of the day. And so this place that we went, you can go like 30 times. It's like a quarter-mile piece of river that has six like whitewater drops in it.
Okay.
So it's all like man-made stuff, but it kind of looks kind of natural, right? So they took these big rocks and then they cemented them in, and then they put a big um, in the middle where the water flows. They put like almost like a slide rock in there, right? It's kind of obvious that they built this piece of that so that it falls down like 2 or 3 feet, and it's like going over like a rapids of some sort.
Gotcha.
Well,
And they're trying to make it like to a certain level of rapids, like level two, level three, level.
yeah, I mean, I guess if you would get a lot of like rain or if it was very wet, it might run up to like a level like 3, but I would assume that it's like a 2. It's pretty light. So like I think a 1 is like rapids that you'd run into on like the Kickapoo, right? So there's no like drops,
Yeah.
right?
It's just like don't hit that rock. Like that's your only task when you're going through.
Yeah, really like there's no like elevation change, right? It's all just kind of the same.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Um, And so this does have like 2 or 3 feet of like elevation change in each one of these, but it's man-made and it's meant to do that. Well, so some of those spaces, so I lost some stuff when I was on the river, and I lost my hat on the first run, falls off, and I'm like trying to like swim back up and get it, and it goes under, and then I can't see it anymore. So it's at the bottom of this river somewhere, I would assume, right? I
Yeah.
didn't like
Someone's getting a new hat.
I was not eager enough to find this hat quick enough. What got sucked under by the current or whatever and lost it. So, and then I lost my sunglasses on the last run of the day. So I had my youngest son on my lap as we're going down in this tube. We flip over, like, whatever, no big deal. But my sunglasses came off. And that's the first time that had happened all day. Like they hadn't come off at all, even. And just, sunglasses, as soon as they're off your head, they're
Oh
fucking
yeah.
gone.
Those are done
But
for.
luckily they were free. And then I also, and I don't remember at what point, this was like in the middle of the day, but like I smoked like a rock coming down one of those rapids. Like right at the end, there was just like this like spare rock. And one of the fishermen that was on the river said the river was super low. And I was like, well, maybe that's why like I hit that rock or whatever. But like, and now I got a pretty good sized bruise on my back. It It's nothing that's like incapacitating, but it definitely made me think twice about like where I was going when I was coming down the river the next couple times. So, uh,
Oh,
and then so uh, as far as my overs for the week, I mean, so that was a pretty good time. So we did have to drive 2.5 hours to get there, but that happened in Iowa. That's in Manchester, Iowa. If anybody wants to check it out, it was fun. It was just a long drive to get there. I figure I can start one up in Wilton on the Kickapoo.
yeah, and it's kind of funny, like that you get it's like a quarter mile stretch that you guys just float down, run back to the top, like
Yeah.
just like a
Yeah.
long water slide. I don't
Yeah,
know
kinda.
how
Kinda.
my motivation would be to see it again. Like it
Yeah,
seems like
so
someone could do it better and make it so you just have to go once. And you know what I'm saying? It's like a 2 mile
yeah.
stretch and you got some lulls and flows into it, but
Yeah, if they would run it like 2 miles straight, that would be pretty epic. Be pretty cool. Yeah, so the wife asked if I would go back down there, and I think I said I don't want to drive that far, right? But
that's
like
fair.
I
That's
I
fair. I
do
think,
drive I do drive like good distances to go do things that I enjoy. Like if I would go to a Brewer game, it's going to be a 3 hour trip. If I go to a Packer game, it's probably 3.5 or 4 hours. Even the even the Badgers is an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, right? And so I'm willing to drive to do things. I've driven up to the cities for things, like just to like be in the cities for the weekend or be in but I guess usually if I go to the cities or if I go to Chicago or like a big city, I usually stay overnight. Milwaukee, I don't. I've always done turn and burns for the games, but I don't know. I don't know if I would do it again. I also said I'd never run like a mud run or a distance run ever again after I ran a Tough Mudder and I did that again. So
yeah,
I think space gives you a little bit like, yeah, that was fun. Like we could do it again. Right.
it's like what they say about childbirth is they make it very forgettable
Yeah.
because you're supposed to like keep reproducing.
Yep.
So so
Yeah.
maybe
Like you can't remember like all the bullshit that went with it. Right.
yeah. And I think if you find a better way to do it, because like you were saying, you used to turn and burn every Brewer game you went to. Once
Yep.
I figured out and started having like friends in the Milwaukee area when I didn't have to do that, I was like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine turn and burning
Yeah.
again
And
ever
getting home at
again.
like 2 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah. Like driving 3 hours for a 3 hour game to drive 3 hours back, like 6 hours of driving for a 3 hour event seems crazy to
yeah.
me now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I'd probably still do it for something like I want to say that we've done that for like concerts too. Like Garth Brooks played in the cities. We drove up there and drove back all in the same night. I
yeah,
mean,
I'm not
is what
there
it is.
anymore. And it's not even just because I have a lot of money, it's just because I've became lazier and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
Uh,
get that. There's probably a good way to do that. Like go camping in that area and then
yeah. In the city would probably be actually pretty cool to spend the weekend in because it's kind of like a touristy city as well, but maybe not too. I have no idea. Just saw one little strip. And so I felt touristy in that little strip, right? Anyway, I finished my first adult book of the year, which my goals for the year were read one every month. So I read one every 7 months. Not bad. If I get two
yeah, no,
down,
pretty good.
right?
Pretty. When you
Meeting my
say
goals.
adult book, how many
Not
times do you whack off before you finish it? So it's
uh,
one book. How many whack offs is it good for?
so zero whack offs. This was not a whack off book. It's not a smut book. I did write it as an adult book, and I did say it as adult book, and it does sound like it's dirty. It's a dirty book if that's the case, but no whack offs during the book.
So at what level does it become an adult book? Like is Hatchet an adult book?
So the protagonist probably had, or protagonist or antagonist probably, no, just the protagonist probably has to be an adult, like an actual adult, probably 25 plus. Maybe not that old, right? So Harry Potter, long books written for adults, especially at the end, I think, not adult books because the protagonist, Harry Potter, is a child.
So you judge this off of the character in it. So
I
like
think for the most part, yeah.
Have you ever heard of the movie Kids before?
No.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's an adult movie, but like the kids are never mind. I don't know enough about
Like in
kids.
a so
I've
you say
just
adult movie, I hear porn, and then I'm like, kids should not be in porn movies, right? Um, but uh no, I think that like there's some horror films where the protagonist could be a child, right? Where it like probably is
adults.
for adults to some extent. Like I just think that if the main character is like on a hero's journey, which is what Harry Potter is, right? And so, and I get that that's like an 800-page book. Like to say that that's for kids is kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say
And maybe it's not quite that long, 600 pages, but I can see
Harry
where you'd say, like,
Harry
this is
Potter is
kind
a
of dark.
kid's book though. But
Right.
I would also say like the Lord of the Rings are kind of kids' books.
Those
Like,
are all adults, though.
yeah, but I don't think that's how you judge it. Like if it's an adult book, if there's a kid in it.
So I know you're not a huge reader, but like, I think like most heroes' journeys, if they're starting when the guy is like 15 or 12 or 14, then it's a child's book, right? Where if, and this has nothing to do with the book that I read, but if their hero's journey starts when the guy's like 25 and he's like John Wick, right? So that's a movie, obviously. I don't know if it's a book or not, but if it's John Wick where he's an adult, and that's, you're not seeing like his progression from becoming a child and like learning all those skills. You're seeing him enacting those skills. Um, there's a new one coming out, and I can't think of the stupid name of the frickin' movie with Harrison Ford in it.
It
Indiana
is,
Jones is for adults. Star Wars is for adults because it's not the kids, right? And so with episode 1, when Anakin's a child, like you could maybe argue that that's a for like a movie for kids.
yeah, and I think Star Wars are for kids. I do think you have like a good point there, where I do think if it's like a child that is the protagonist, as you're using all the correct words,
Yeah, I think
like,
that's like the guy who like drives the story, right?
yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Like the good guy in the
Yep.
story. Like I think if it's a kid, it's usually gotta be a kid's book. But I don't think if it is an adult that is the protagonist, that it necessarily means that it's not for kids. Because like if you just look at like this might be a dumb example, but like the Wiggles or like Blues Clues or like shit like that. Like it's an adult, but it's a kid
Yeah,
show. Like,
I get that. Uh,
but it is funny that you say that because now that I'm thinking of like every movie that I watch where like the kid is the thing, it's usually a kid's book.
yeah, or
But I
kids movie or
don't,
something like that, right?
yeah, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Because then if you say that, then my first example, Hatchet, is definitely a kid's book. Because you're
Well, so I
reading
mean,
it while
you
you're a
read that as a fifth, sixth grader though too,
yeah,
right?
and
Like
it's
that's
like
what Gary Paulson wrote Two Young Men. Like that was the like idea behind. That's who wrote The Hatchet, right? It was Gary Paulson.
sure, that sounds right. Yeah.
I'm like
No, I
90% sure that's correct. But
think
like
you're
he
good.
wrote to young men that like to be like out in the wilderness. That was like the goal is for like kids probably from like 10 to 16 to be like wild humans, since that's kind of like what his idea of it was. It's probably based on his life to some extent.
Yeah, no, yeah, I just think it's an interesting point that you brought that up, that it kind of depends on the protagonist, but definitely, like I said, is you can have an adult protagonist and it could be a kid book for
And so
sure.
I think those lines are a little bit more like muddied now for sure with like especially with comic book characters,
Yeah, those are for
right?
kids.
Those are for kids. Most of them are adults. So like Superman's an adult, Batman's an adult, Iron Man's an adult, right?
And
But
they've always
now,
been.
yeah. And so like, uh, we, I don't know, in our culture today, we definitely view those as like multi-generational movies, right? So they're
Yeah.
anybody 50 and under, that's what they're for.
Yeah, for sure. Like the Avengers, like you could bring your kids to and they would have a good time, or Guardians
Yeah.
of the Galaxy, like you can bring your kids to and have a good time. We did hammer that one home too much.
Yeah.
What was the book called that you read?
So it's honestly like a sales book or a self-help book, right? It's called Never Split the Difference, but it's an FBI negotiator got into like a sales thing. And so I started reading it because of this crisis negotiation team that I'm doing. And supposedly that should be pretty similar to the FBI 40-hour training, which I'm hoping to do in
Wh-
September, maybe.
What's your biggest benefit that you took away from that book?
So that like, and this is kind of what we teach at work anyway, is that don't ever like, don't ever really give answers. Always just be asking questions because people are going to give the information that you need, right? And
Yeah.
then another big one is uh that to walk away with no deal is better than walking away with a bad deal.
Okay.
But that's
So
more
I,
business based, right? Like to like say this deal doesn't work for you and it doesn't work for me. It's better for us to just leave and neither of us to be angry about it.
yep. And I would agree with that point of advice, but can you repeat the first thing you said? Because I think I got something to say about that, but now that you said the second one, I can't remember.
Yeah, so that the first one was basically that you kind of drive the conversation through questions and reflections and you don't really have to give up too much of yourself. And
Okay.
right,
So
that's the negotiation piece of it for him though.
God, I hate that so much. I think I hate the guy that you're talking about because that it's like how to make the world a shittier place. It's like don't be upfront with what you want because you want them to slip up and so you can get what you want for less. And
Yeah, so
I
that's the business piece of it, right? Um
it's like how to be a shitty person, but
I
like
don't know.
not think you're a shitty person.
Yeah, maybe that's accurate, right? So I guess what I'm going to ask him, and this is like a some other guys. This is more like brain drain talk, I guess here. But and I've mentioned this guy, this Dan Ariely guy,
Yeah, we'll do the
and
brain drain at the front of the episode.
apparently today, right? He basically says like you're willing to act shittier if the people around you act shitty, right? Does that make sense
Yes,
to you? So
100%.
if like mob mentality type stuff. But even on small things, mob mentality works. Or just if you know somebody that cheats at something, you're more willing to cheat to some extent.
No,
And so,
it's funny you say that. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off too much, but so this just happened in a conversation tonight. So there's a button that says do not touch. I think you and I are both guys that do not touch a button that says do not touch. But then I was thinking back, like when I was a kid, I was like, I would not touch that button if nobody was around me. But if I had people to make
yeah.
think that I was cool, I would touch that button. Sorry, but yeah,
Or
that's
like,
very true.
yeah, yeah. Like if someone's going to think you're cool, you might touch that button. Or if you know that everyone before you has touched that button, like you don't care if you touch that button.
Yeah, you're like, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And so like the consequences aren't going to be as great, or even if you even if it's something that says don't touch this button, like nobody will ever know, but like you, right? So like that's, but you know, everybody touches the button, you know it, or you see somebody else touch the button, then you'll touch the button too. And he was doing it with cheating. And so I wonder, like, if I hold my moral code too highly in comparison to society with things
No,
like that.
don't ever wonder that. I like, and I'm not even saying like just you in general. Like, I just think that sure, you can get ahead in life with a shit ton of things. And I'm not trying to go off like on a preachy thing, but like, I don't like that shit. Like, ask questions when no, just tell someone what you want so they can tell you what they want, and let's move on. Let's not try to get a better deal. Let's try to figure out what the most fair situation is. And I get this, it's not the best way to live, like if you're trying to thrive and shit, but it just pisses me off that there's things out there that teach people to be shittier to other people to get ahead of those people. Because that in general is you're trying to make the other guy be the sucker in the situation that you're dealing with them in. And don't get me wrong, like you probably should do that, but it's just not the way that I want to live. Like, I want to be
That's
able to
fair.
tell somebody, hey, I want this. This is how much money I have. Like, this seems like what a fair price would be. Like, how
Okay, and
much of
so
this
like
product do you have?
if I'm gonna like if I'm gonna break down like his actual attitude, what from the videos I've seen him, because I've watched a bunch of his videos too, because like he's this FBI negotiator that was really good. That like he was in charge of like all overseas American kidnappings for like 15 years, something like that, right? For a long time.
Yeah.
And so if he's breaking it down, he's saying that if you come out and you're in like a business negotiation or negotiation, even with a terrorist, right? And you come out and you say, all right, so what I want to do is I want to be able to pay $25,000 for this business, right? And the other guy at that point, he's anchored into around $25,000. Where in reality, when he was walking in, he could have been at $10,000. And you're going to pay $15,000 more for this business because like you didn't let things come out where he wanted to be at. And so like you're saying like you're just trying to get him down to a lower number all the time. And I don't think that, and I could just be misreading it, right? Like having too much
No,
faith in the
no,
humanity.
you're reading it right, but it's still not right in my mind. Like, exactly what you just said, he's trying to make
But so like you're
a
assuming,
normal everyday deal the same as a hostage negotiation. Like, I get it.
so
If you're
so his
dealing
hostage,
with like lives and shit, you're gonna try whatever. You're gonna beg, borrow,
yeah,
fucking steal, do whatever you need,
yeah, to keep somebody alive, right? And so
which
like
is not what it should be when you're trying to just live your life. Like,
yeah, to do business. So I assume like in that case, we're assuming that we're dealing with good people, like not bad actors, right? So bad actors like are doing
yeah,
the opposite to you in some extent. But yeah, I
yeah.
get what you're
Say
saying.
you're going to try to buy uh your grandpa's farm, or someone's going to buy your grandpa's farm and he's trying to fucking rip your grandpa off to get a good deal,
Yeah.
and your grandpa doesn't know any better. Like, that person's a piece of shit. Like that's what they are.
Fair enough, right? That if you're not given fair market, I don't think he's pushing for not fair market value though. But
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
think he's
probably hitting
pushing
the
for
guy a
like,
little bit hard.
no, you're fine. I don't think like who cares? Like this is some like guy who obviously quit the FBI in doing the terrorism thing because he saw a way to make money in the private sector too, right? Like so that happened. That's why he's writing books and started his own like consulting company. But I think the example he gives in the terrorist thing is that, or maybe just kidnappers. I think it was in the Philippines. They were getting all these kidnappings, like 2 a week, and it'd be Americans or whatever, and it always started off with like $50,000 to $75,000, right? And then like everybody would have it solved by like Thursday night, Friday morning, right? Everything always got solved like by like Friday-ish. And so by him sitting down and like, I guess it's not him asking the questions, it's like family members, but he's coaching them
Guiding them,
through it.
yeah.
Yeah. They figured out that these guys are just taking the ransom money and going to party on Fridays and Saturday nights. And you don't need $50,000 to party for the weekend, right? Especially probably in the Philippines. And so they realized that like they could get the money that the kidnappers are asking for $50,000 to $75,000 every time down to like 5,000. And so like saving the family, $45,000 or $65,000, $70,000, right? And so by sitting there and asking the questions and like having them give you information and like be patient with like making the deal, like the true deal comes out. They don't need, so they're taking these people in order to like go out and party on the weekend. They don't need to have $50,000 to do that. They can probably do that pretty effectively with $5,000 to $6,000.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I get where
I
you're at. I
mean,
get where you're at with it too. When you say that, like someone who's trying to swindle you out of things for not creating good value, like that's not really a good person either. You're right about that.
yeah. In my example, like in Afghanistan, we would go to the bazaar or whatever. And these people were just like hustlers and shit. And now that I'm saying it out loud, like whatever, I was like a sucker in there, but I wasn't buying much shit. Like I remember I just wanted suits. And this person asked for whatever, $150 a suit. And I was like, that is a fucking steal. Like it's a 6-piece suit, $150. I was like, give me 2 of them. So he's like, yeah, that's $300. I give dude $400. Like, because I was like,
Yeah. You
this
knew it was
is,
a deal. This is a guy that probably doesn't, you feel like he doesn't make money. He probably does, right? Otherwise he wouldn't be there. But
yeah, but he's probably making money in bad ways too. Like, I'm wondering who's making these suits that I have got for like so cheap. But then I would like walk out of the bazaar and like I would be with people who I do think are like good people that like would just talk these people down to like selling it to like 50 cents type shit.
like for the
And
suit,
no, not for the suit, but like just
right?
for
I
like
gotcha.
other shit. So they would have maybe talked it down to like $100 a suit. And I was just like, man, these people are like outside of our base, like we're getting hit with IDFs or like indirect fire like every day. So like these people are going into like areas where they're not
Not
protected.
necessarily safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, just fucking pay them what they're asking for, which is probably not a bad, and that's not a great way to live life either. So I don't know. You kind of talked me into seeing the faults in my ways as well.
I don't
But
know. So I get what you're saying. Like you can be a shitty human, but you can also like just be trying to strike the deal that actually works for both of you, right?
yeah, I
Not
would
that
think.
you're eroding all their value, but you're not overspending to get something either, right? So if I get where you're at, makes sense to me.
And I think also like I was like wheeling dealing like for a house here. We can get off this in a second, but like that was like my main word. I was like, I'm gonna be transparent as I can be with you. I was like, this is my budget. You can't meet this, I can't help you. Like if you can meet this, I can help
Yeah,
you. Like, and
yeah,
that's
that's
all I
and
wanted. But then
right.
you also get extorted off saying something like maybe not extorted is the right word, but like,
Yeah, you might be overpaying for that
yeah,
house you're in,
exactly.
right, or whatever. Yep. Um. All right. Yeah. So we'll move on. Like I said, finish this book. It's called Never Split the Difference. It's by Chris Voss. He's a former crisis negotiator or hostage negotiator for the FBI. Pretty good. I'm happy that I finished it. It took me way longer than it should have. I got it like 4 weeks ago and kind of putzed and didn't read it as much as I should. But
Everybody give Mike a round of applause. You finish a book.
I'm only 11 away from meeting my goal for the year.
I'm actually proud of you though. That's good. I think if you always set your goals too high, so if you finish 4 books, that's a success for me
At this
in
point, that
my
would be.
eyes.
Can I listen to an audiobook? I'm considering scooping up an audiobook because my favorite podcast is taking a vacation for the next couple weeks.
I think so. I will not hold a grudge about like against that as long as it's like educational.
It's
If
not going to be
you're
educational if I do it, I'm sure.
then it doesn't count. Then you got to read the
Wait,
words.
I got to read like if I'm reading it, so if I to get credit for reading a novel that is not educational, um, then I have to read it.
Yeah, that's whatever. I haven't had a lot of time to think about my take right there, but I think so. Is yeah, if you're gonna learn about something, I don't care how you are learning about it.
Okay.
But if you're gonna be entertained by something that is fake and whatever, that would be like me bragging to you that I watch movies or TV shows. Like it's
Okay.
not an accomplishment. I don't think.
Fair enough.
I mean, but it will expand your brain. I don't know. I'm on the fence with
Well, maybe
everything.
it won't, right? Like, so I listen to enough podcasts that I'm not always sure that my brain is going to be expanding.
Yeah. If I brag to you about how many podcasts that I listen to about useless garbage, it won't
Wait,
be a
is it
brag.
actually useless garbage? So it's like sports and shit. Like you just
Barely that. It's like people talking like we are right now uh about
think of how many things people learned in the last, I don't know, 20 minutes when we were talking about this bullshit.
they learn nothing because I sit on the fence with everything. Like they learned like, oh, maybe we should talk people down, or maybe we shouldn't because
So we
this.
made them think like, what should we actually be doing? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Tweet at us about this. Tweet at us about this. If
Yeah. Should you try to talk people down in a negotiation, or should you not try to
be
not talk them down? Pay them
or you
what they're
should
asking for.
should you be transparent with negotiations, or should you hold your cards tight?
What's up?
Mike's
1
being
second.
loud right now at his house. Yeah, I'll pause.
All right. So that kind of, I had to cut out of there quick because Amazon Prime days are ending. And so the wife and I needed to scoop up something for behind our couch. So had to do that real quick, got her handled. Gonna get
I
us a little piece of furniture off of Amazon. We'll see how it works, but
I love and respect the hustle. I like as I was telling you while we were just paused, I was like, I didn't even know it was that. But now that I think of it, we did get some stuff for very cheap, and I don't think we knew why it was so cheap. But now it makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, you guys should keep your eyes out for Prime Days. I know that you rich people don't have to do shit like that, but you really should. It's a good deal. You can get things for what people are no longer asking for them.
You rich people, are you talking to our 15 listeners
No,
out
I'm talking.
there?
I think I'm talking to you.
No,
I
yeah,
think all
that's
our listeners knew Prime Day existed.
no. Well, maybe, yeah. I'm not saying they didn't, but we're definitely not rich. We are far from, actually. I think we're closer to poor than we are rich.
Yeah,
But I
I
don't
feel
think
that pain.
we're not poor, but we're not rich. So we're living
Yeah,
somewhere in the middle.
you're exceptionally middle class.
Yes. And we like it that way. We like it that way. All right. Should we roll into this show? We did the brain drain right off the top, even though I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna have another brain drain at the end.
Oh,
Just because
good.
there's shit that I want to talk about. But
Good.
you roll, you roll. I'm drunker than you right now, and you're
All right,
talking
so we'll
smoother
do.
than me.
Yeah, so we'll jump into barking about the Brewers. So a few points about the just 1 point about the Brewers, and then a couple points about the Major League Baseball. So 0 Brewers appeared in the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Obviously, Jackson Churro appeared in the Double-A All-Star game, which disappointed Pat a little bit because he was hoping to see him. But they must have had
I'll take that,
the
Burn.
Brewers must have had somebody go to the All-Star game, because I believe in baseball every club gets a representative, right?
The Airbender was there, so Devin
Here,
Williams was there.
okay, but didn't get in the game. Also, another guy who didn't make the game that this podcast is exceptionally disappointed about, Ellie De La Cruz, wasn't in the game. Didn't even get voted in. Is that correct, Pat?
So I think I mean, he just showed up on the scene too late. So I don't think we knew how early we were to the Ellie De La Cruz or the Ellie De La Cruz party, but
Oh, interesting.
we were right on it. He had just got called up, and we didn't know. Like, so I'm not even
No,
trying to
Pat,
say like
you are a like minor league baseball whisperer. You're gonna know all those guys coming up.
apparently because man, everybody knows Ellie De La Cruz now.
We knew about him a month and a half ago because of you, Pat.
No, but I didn't know him in the minor leagues. Like I
No,
just
I
seen
know.
like 2 games of his like highlights. And I think apparently it was like at least in his first 3 games
Oh,
that he
no
did it.
kidding. Wow.
But it was kind of like the Jay Bruce train. Let's see if he turns out to be Jay Bruce. Do you remember when Jay Bruce popped on the scene?
But I feel like Jay Bruce was like a plus player for like 5-6 years.
He was like a
Maybe
Jeremy
it wasn't that.
Jeremy Burnett's type plus player. Like he
Okay.
wasn't, yeah, he wasn't taking your team to the next level. But like when Jay Bruce first showed up on the scene, I want to say like if you look up Jay Bruce stats, which I'm not going to do right now, I want to say in his first 20 games, he might have hit 12 to 15 home runs.
Oh,
He
no
was
kidding.
just,
So he was just a dynamo right out the jump.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Ellie De La Cruz wasn't in the game. No Brewers got in the game, which probably means Ellie De La Cruz should be traded to the Brewers shortly, right?
Yeah, I
Probably a good
wonder.
move, right? That kind of fits. That if you can't make it to the All-Star game, bring him to the Brewers. We'll get him in the game. We'll vote him in. And then so they had the home run derby. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I believe, Yeah, I think he's the junior, not like the
Yeah.
third or something. He won the home run derby.
Oh, I thought you were wondering if he was like the Vlad Guerrero or if he
No,
was
so
legit.
both. So I wonder if this is the first time in history that a father-son duo won the home
It
run
is.
derby.
It is. It
It
is.
is.
So
All
yeah.
right. So that's pretty cool. Pretty exciting. It sounded like there was a bunch of like, I think the thing that disappoints me the most about the home run derby is that the actual like Stanton or Judge don't take part in this.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It is kind of stupid. Like Pete Alonso is the guy that won the last two of them, and he takes it like very serious, but there's a happy medium that they need to meet in this. And the way that this one was set up, like, doesn't really, it's just like swing out of your ass like as fast as you can, and hopefully you're hitting home runs,
But I
which
heard like a guy hit like 40 of them in one round.
yeah, and you can definitely do that with the way it's set up because it's like a time limit now. And I want to say maybe you get extra time like when it was hit. I didn't watch this one. Yeah, I didn't even watch a second of this one, but just knowing from last year, like the way it was set up, it's it's a time limit, whatever they can throw as many pitches like so fast, like you don't get outs. Like where we kind of grew up and you had 10 outs. If you didn't hit a home run, it wasn't out
Yeah.
type deal. There just needs to find like the happy medium between the way they're doing it now and whatever. But yeah, I
Okay.
I just think it's
It
like dead that the best player like Michael Jordan's not, LeBron James isn't going to compete in a slam dunk contest or whatever.
right.
Like
So speaking of these other contests, is this the best all-star game activity? Is the home run derby?
baseball all-star game,
But any all-star game, 3-point contest, dunk contest, are those better? Those are the two that I think are comparable.
the 3-point contest. Yeah, I think it is the best, but it's still not great.
Okay. So
And I think
all
it just
all-star
is what
games
it
suck.
is. Yeah, maybe we just got to accept that. Like, all-star games aren't what they're cracked up to be. Because I think when we were kids, we thought they were like
I
pretty
think it
cool.
was I think as a kid I thought it was awesome that everybody that I knew was on the same field. Football, baseball, basketball, same, all the same, right? Like all the superstars ended up on one field. And I loved that. I loved the idea of that.
The
But
one thing I
I
will
don't know if it
say,
was good back then either.
the baseball game all-star game is the best all-star game of all the all-star games.
Well, it's the only one you can actually play the sport in, I think.
Exactly. And yeah, like there's no holding up.
Right.
If you look at the box score of the MLB All-Star game, like obviously nobody's pitching more than they need to pitch. So like, so if you look at the pitching stats of that, no one pitched over an inning in that game. So you're dealing with like fresh heat all the time. So it's not the
Yeah.
same as like a normal game, obviously, but you are also getting like pinch hitters for everything and things along that line.
Yeah, and
And
there's like a pretty big lineup, right? So there's a shitload of people, probably more people than a normal like Major League Baseball daily lineup.
yeah, so I think they still play by the rules like where it's only 9 hitters, but you're just gonna pinch hit.
But there might be 30 guys on the roster compared to 25.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So
Yeah, is a huge roster.
yeah,
But
which
yeah,
allows for more pinch hitters and all that kind of bullshit, right?
yeah. But yeah, highlights from that, from what I got to watch, like while I was kind of watching, kind of working, the first two outs of the games were balls hit to the fence where two people made spectacular catches against the wall. I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because
Yeah.
Acuna comes up and I'm telling the people I work with, I was like, this guy's going to be the MVP for the NL this year. And they knew already. Like I work with some pretty well informed people. It's pretty cool. I think they put me on a team of people who can walk the walk in that sense. But yeah, two awesome catches right off the bat. And you're like, yeah, okay. These guys all deserve to be all stars. Like the people hitting these balls like this. But then it ends up being 3-2 at the end of the game. Our boy Luis Arraez gets like 2 hits right off the bat. He's hitting 382. So it was cool. It was a cool all-star game
Yeah.
in that perspective. But yeah, home run derby, 3-point contest. You might have to pay me money to fully pay attention to those things.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we'll move on to barking about the Bucks and some NBA news. Any NBA information we got out there? Do you think the number one overall pick, Wembanyama,
Wembanyama. Yeah.
is going to be any good?
Oh yeah. He's gonna be a stud. Came out his first game. I feel like you have those like first game jitters in that department, like where it's like, what's this really going to be like? I want to say he scored like 7 or 9 points and put like a very average stat line together. Comes out the second game, goes like 27 points. I don't know how many rebounds. I don't know how many is this, but you're scoring 27 points against some pretty damn good competition when you're as young as he is. I think he's going to be just fine. And not even that. Like that wasn't the question, but he's going to be something to mess with unless he gets hurt. And he looks frail. So that could be an issue.
Does he look as frail as Chet Holmgren?
Uh
Are they comparable?
yeah, but
Okay.
I don't think that that's necessarily that bad. Like he looks as frail as Kevin Durant looked, and
Okay.
Kevin Durant still looks kind of frail. I would say.
Yeah, and like
And
he's one of the best basketball players on the planet for sure.
yeah, so who knows where it goes, because I would say Greg Oden and Yao Ming didn't look that frail for sure. Like they look
Right.
better put together, and
Right,
they were
and
still huge like that, and they get hurt because they're huge like that.
yeah, because they're bigger, it was rougher on them. Not that being really thin is going to necessarily be good for those other guys, but it was probably because of the weight that they carried around. Like Yao Ming was probably carrying around more weight than he needed to, even.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Greg Oden definitely was, because like the size of that dude's dick is just phenomenally enormous.
You are enthralled with the Greg Oden's dick. We've had this conversation multiple times on the podcast. Just
Yeah, he just carried a hammer around in his pants as well. Like is on top of being just a huge human being with your joints needing to work the way they need to do, he carried a fucking sledgehammer in his pants.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like surprising news though. Like the guy's 7'1" or 7'2" or 7 foot, right? Like I guess I assume that if you're symmetrical or like proportional, like that's just the case.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the only guy that's 7 foot tall that I've ever seen their dick before. But
More than likely, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's not that many 7-footers, and then to have their dick swinging around, it'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of if I've ever seen someone over 7 foot dick other than Greg Odens.
Like,
And I don't know if he's quite 7 foot. He was probably 7 foot, right?
how many people do you know that are even close to that are even like 6'10"?
Their dicks. I
No,
don't
no,
know.
just that you know.
I don't know anybody. I don't even know if I know anybody personally that's above 6'7".
Okay.
I don't even
So,
know if 6'6".
okay. I went to high school with a guy that was 6'9", but he
Okay.
was like a eighth grader or a freshman when I was a senior. Can't remember if he was in my sister's class or the class behind her, but like not
Yeah.
something I remember noticing, I guess, either. Right? If he would have been in the locker room with me. So
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be noticeable whether it was like it, if he had a normal sized dick, it would be like
we have
probably
spent
more noticeable.
I think we've spent far too much time talking about 7-footers dicks.
Yeah. No.
Far,
I don't think
far
we've
too much.
spent enough time, but we'll get back to it at another time. So keep going, keep going. I'll quit
All
in a
right,
minute.
so I don't think I have any other like NBA news going on. Have you caught any of the Bucks summer league team?
So just in general, the Bucks Summer League team makes me very happy. And what I pulled up strikes me as the Bucks Summer League team of last year. But if I could just no, this is this year's. So we got Taco Fall on the team. He probably carries around a fucking hammer, dude. I
And
imagine that guy has
I've only heard
huge
of
dick.
Taco Fall. I don't know if I've ever actually seen him play basketball.
So I remember seeing him at UCF and in Boston play some basketball. So that's a pretty fun one. It looks like we still got Marshawn Beauchamp on the team. There was something about it that I thought that this summer league team looked very fun. And I guess like if you go names wise, like Drew Timmy, Taco Fall,
Jabari.
I mean, as you like as a Bucks fan, Marjan Beauchamp still being being there, and I don't know. Like I don't think if you're a Celtics fan, like you're like, oh, Marjan Beauchamp, that's fun.
Oh yeah, right. I get that.
Vin Baker, and yeah, like you said, Jabari Parker back with the Bucks, but I'm very confused by that. Just because, like, as we talked in the last episode, he seemed like he was pretty disgruntled with Milwaukee and wanted to get out. But I mean,
Yeah,
if you can find a job, you can find a job. And I feel like
teams start
basketball,
winning.
yeah,
You
and
win.
basketball, people bring people back quite a bit. But pretty fun summer league team, I would say, out of the Bucks. I'm gonna watch 3 minutes of summer league. So
Oh yeah, I'm probably not going to watch any unless if they're still playing in a week when I go out to Vegas. Maybe I'll try to get to a game.
I don't think they are. I think it's like
Yeah, I think it's
pretty
closed
quick.
up shop,
Yeah.
but like I don't know. But
Yeah.
if they are, I'll see what I can do. Try to get down, heckle some Boston Celtics guys or something. I'm not sure. Get my ass beat for heckling summer league players.
There you go. Go do it.
Uh,
Go do it.
all right. So next off, we're gonna jump over to the NFL and get a little news out of there. The Chiefsaholic, I think is who it was. was finally found and arrested. He was robbing banks in order to have enough money to sit in basically like the front row of the stands. And so they finally scooped him up, I believe, in California. So
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's probably one of the most respectable things that I've heard in a long time.
you were just saying that I shouldn't like ask for like less money, people to take money off, but it's okay to fucking rob banks for the, I guess if it's for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to contradict myself.
On this one.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you're like Bonnie and Clyde and shit and being assholes, like he was just sick of people not being transparent with him. Like, just give me the tickets, face value. I'll give you an extra $10. We got a deal here, but
But
they
like if
weren't
you're
doing
that
it.
big of a if you're that big of a Chiefs fan, you probably could have had really good season tickets at face value when they were fucking ass for like before Mahomes got there. They were fucking terrible for years.
Yeah, no, this, and I'm getting this all from a separate podcast. So
Yeah.
the Chiefs super fan realm is an interesting thing. And
Right. Is it
I don't think he was getting the money just to sit at the like front of the games. Like I think you've been like kind of fed a lie into that. I'm
oh,
sure
I'm sure
part
I
of
have
it,
been. Like
yeah,
they're definitely joking every time they say it, but I'm
yeah,
gonna roll with the joke. So
yeah. And I'm sure it was part of it, honestly, but I
yeah, you
don't
gotta
think that was
keep up
like,
a certain lifestyle to some extent, right?
yeah, but if you look into the Chiefs super fan shit, it's funny. Like the Wolfman fucked the other Chief superfan's wife, and like then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and the young wolf does this. Like it's a
Yeah.
weird scene with super fans in Chiefs Kingdom for sure.
Yeah, I would guess like to be the super fan, you're probably not like the most mentally stable person on the planet. Not that you're like crazy necessarily, but you're probably not like making all your best decisions in your life.
Yeah, and you said that just fine. Like, because you could just be like a inherently goofy dude, but yeah, there's probably something wrong. Like,
I would assume so. Like if you feel like you
yeah,
got to get dressed up for every game and like especially if you go to every game, like and you got to be dressed up and like acting like a fool at every game. It's a little odd.
I agree with that statement. But
Yeah.
I like if I
But yeah,
lived
I'm
in
a
Green
calm
Bay,
fan.
yeah, and so am I. And I honestly like watching the games on TV more than going to the
Yeah.
stadium. So
Yeah. So
there's
what you
something.
miss is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is fucking cool if you go
Yeah.
to a game. And I would guess that's pretty much everywhere. All right. And then moving on from that, Alvin Kamara pleads no contest. I guess it's still up in the air whether he's going to get suspended or not. But I don't know if he got any jail time out of it. Didn't sound like it from what I saw.
All right.
But few
Inform the
a
people who
few
don't know what Alvin
I don't
Kamara did.
I'm not 100% positive. I think it's assault, but it was during the Pro Bowl, not this last year, but the year before.
All
I
right.
want to say domestic abuse, possibly.
So, but the criminal case against Kamara ended Tuesday when the player pleaded no contest to reduce the charge of breaching the peace, a misdemeanor that spares Kamara a possible felony conviction. The court ordered 30 hours of community service and $105,000 restitution for Green's medical bills. So the charge was breaching of the peace. I don't
Yeah,
even.
so that would be like a disorderly conduct here, which is a
Yeah.
misdemeanor. It's not something you're going to get put in jail for. But I'm pretty sure he had an assault charge,
See,
which would have been a
that goes
felony.
back
He pled down to it.
to my
And I think
transparency
and I
issue.
think that had mandatory um jail time if you get convicted of the felony.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't even know what to say, like, hopefully about, but breaching of the peace, that is an interesting way to put something like you're
Well, and
breaching the peace. But
yeah, and I think he was like I said, I think he's in Vegas when this happens. Right? And that city is
okay. Yeah, that's
like
ringing
breaching
more
the
of a
peace.
bell right now.
How do you do that in Las Vegas? I don't even know how that exists in
Yeah.
like a city like that, right? If you're anywhere near either downtown area or any clubs or anything, how do you getting charged with that? If you're anywhere
He's
near
sus-
hotels and shit.
if he's suspended, Aaron Jones is the most. No, never mind. Christian McCaffrey. All right. I'll try to pull it back into the sports realm, but yeah, the breaching the peace thing is interesting in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Like that's a weird law. I suppose it's anything that like you're getting out of like if you jumped into the Bellagio fountain, that'd be breaching the peace or something like that, right? If you're doing crazy shit that they need to control you over, that's breaching the peace,
yeah, I guess so. But I
right?
would
That's
think
what a
even
disorderly
like,
conduct is.
yeah, and I'm familiar with what a disorderly conduct is.
You've
And
had one?
one, one, only one. But
Good for you.
mine was, yeah, just being drunk. Yeah, I guess drunk. It would be like jumping into a fountain. So yeah, you're
Drunk
right
and
with
stupid,
that.
right? Like that you're not actually like
Because yeah,
being like
if you hit
illegal, but you're being a
somebody,
problem.
yeah, and if you hit somebody, that would be like an assault, and that would
Yeah.
be more of an issue. So yeah, it's curious to me just how broad that statement can be. I can't say whether I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well, Kamara should be good, like for
I would
that.
imagine that like the NFL knows what he did, and I would assume that him pleading no contest to this and pleading down is going to get him suspended. That's what the NFL does.
Yeah. And less of a punishment or more of a punishment. What do you think? I would think
I'll
he
think he'd
would,
get the same. I think he'll get like a 6 game. He'll appeal it and he'll get down to a 4 game.
but yeah, I also assume like somebody's talking to someone in the NFL office, like where they're like not only pleading to the court, but they're also pleading like, hey, if we do this, like what are we gonna get?
I would
And
assume so, but I mean, people make dumb decisions all the time. And like it, I mean, when we think of NFL football players, I think we think of like fully cooked humans, and they're not always that, right? Like they make stupid decisions because they're not, right? They come into the league at 21 and then they're doing stupid shit for 4 or 5 years. And it's like, how is this guy that we see as like a man and like understands everything about this game of football? How is he making such stupid life choices? But they're just us with incredible, incredible athletic talent.
100%, yeah, because you hear that from football haters or NFL sports haters, like they're like, oh, these people are all beating their wives
Right.
and doing stupid shit and doing drugs and
Yeah.
I'm
Look at
like,
your fucking neighbor. They're
yeah,
doing the same
exactly.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. At
I
a
mean,
way lower rate than what the average population is doing. Like
I would
if
imagine
you
so, right?
Oh, for sure. Like these people are dedicated, like
Yeah.
had to be working their ass off to get to where they are way more than say you or I or
Yeah.
basically anybody that we come into contact on an everyday basis. Like, sure, there's going to be the freaks that get out there that aren't that dedicated, like doing their own
But
thing. But
I would
I would,
imagine that by the time they're in the NFL, they're washed out. Like they wash out pretty quickly in the NFL if they're not the dedicated athlete.
yeah, and I would assume the crime rate in pro sports is less than the crime rate in the military, which people put on a pedestal for being
In the
great. You know
in
what
the
I'm saying
military is
here?
about the same. The military is just about the same as the general population in terms of incarcerated persons.
Yeah, yeah, and I would assume
Percentages, right?
pro athletes are less than that. Maybe I could be wrong about
It's
that.
hard to say what do you classify as that, right? So guys who made it to the league and then left, like what does that number look like? Do you know what I mean? Like 5 days in the league, are we there? Or are we talking about guys who make it to their second contract? Guys who are in their first contract, like they're drafted. Do you know what I mean? So there's so
Yeah,
many guys every year that wash out of the NFL that maybe had, you know, 2 or 3 practices, get cut, and then if they commit a crime, are they considered a pro athlete that has a crime?
I would say
Right.
drafted. If you
Well,
were
so maybe it's a
drafted,
guy who makes the 53-man roster, right? So if we just do that, right? Everybody who's made a 53-man roster in the last 50 years, what is the actual like um incarceration
average.
rate of those individuals like come down to, or like even gets caught doing drugs or whatever? It's probably pretty low.
Yeah, I would assume it's less than general population.
I don't know. Probably.
That's what we'll leave you guys with because
You
we're
guys
not
could
going to
tweet
look
us
it
at
up.
that. You guys can look up all those stats and tell us how stupid we are if you'd really like.
Yeah, no, I think we're smart on that one. So,
All right. And then so more people acting like fools. Northwestern football team is hazing people, like real hazing, like making them run bear crawls naked, um, like dry humping guys, I guess. It's just like some of the stuff that is being alleged out of Northwestern is pretty crazy for 2023. And
how-
and Pat Fitzgerald has been fired over this shit. So he had a 2-week suspension. The internet kind of hears about it, everybody blows up, and then he gets fired. Which I get. Like if you have any idea at all that hazing's going on in your program, you should be fired for one. And two, like what the fuck are you doing? Like why are you letting that shit go on?
yeah, hazing to that extent is kind of wild to me. But then there's like the other side of it where it's like, how much do these people like really want to do it? Never mind. I'm not even gonna
No, so
build
like
that side of the coin, but
I think there's things you could do that would be hazing, right? Like that would be much more socially acceptable, right? Um, you could make them carry like all the footballs like every day, right? Like you're in charge of making sure all the footballs get picked up and put away because you're the new guy on the team, right? Especially in college, like something
yeah,
that like that
oh,
could
for sure.
easily be taking place. Um,
Singing in
just,
front of people, shit like
yeah,
that, like
yeah, like
embarrassing shit.
things that are embarrassing, but not like are like degrading, right? They
Yeah,
embarrass you, but they're not degrading you, right? So you go up and sing, that's not like a degrading thing to have to do, right? And um, I don't know, like things that are forced are a little weird too. I can see guys getting cut over not being the guy that picks up the balls or like being a good teammate, especially if you're a fringe player and you're not unwilling to do the extra shit. Like I could see guys getting cut over that. I mean, so superstars aren't gonna, but they probably get hazed way less than the guy that is the second string right guard.
Yeah, and if you're Pat Fitzgerald in that situation, you got to realize, they're young dudes
That
that,
can't control themselves, aren't fully cooked,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. Like
Yep.
your mind's not there. Like, oh, okay, it's gonna be funny to make this guy like. And don't even get me wrong. Like, if I had to do like a naked bear crawl to make a team, like
I probably
that's
would have
not
done it.
the yeah, that's not the
It's not the worst
worst.
thing that's ever happened in the world, but it's not
Yeah,
good either.
yeah, 100%. And I'm probably not gonna be the guy that's like, oh, I had to do it, you gotta do it. Like, it's just it is what it is at that point. I've heard like hazing stories that way worse, like for frats at Florida State and things like that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yep.
And like just talking to one of my younger troops, I was like, if you get put in a situation like that to like make a frat, you don't do that. Like you don't, join a
And
room of 10 guys nailing a chick or something like along that
yeah,
lines. Like
especially in
it's
the military, that shit'll get you fucking hooked up real quick.
yeah, and it's not even that. Like it's just like when you look back at that scene in your life, like you're gonna regret that or
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So like you said, like be transparent and be a good human. Can you tell that to your parents? This is how I got into the fucking frat. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Uh that I mean, and there granted, like I think we all have things we don't want to like tell our parents we did because they're not always fucking good things. But I think if you lived your life a little bit more like that, like, can you tell people that you're doing this shit?
yeah.
You know, and
And
like we'd be a lot better humans if we thought, well, I don't want to tell people I did this, so I'm not gonna fucking do it. Right.
yeah.
We're not always
And
always all there though. So
and yeah, and we don't know the extent of the hazing. I guess the naked bear crawls is bad enough. I think if
I
you're
it
making
so
if you're making someone get
granted
naked,
for
you're
anything, right?
yeah, like borderline sexually assaulting them. So
Yeah, it
it's
might not even
probably
be
not.
borderline. It could just be sexual assault. Like
Yeah,
that could be just the whole deal of it.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's weird. It doesn't. I don't know if Fitzgerald actually knew about it. Like if he was like complicit in it, like to be like part of it. But I think you have to take responsibility for your program at the
I
very least
agree.
if you're the head coach of the program.
I agree with that 100% because I think that's a ground rule like that you think shouldn't have to be said, but
Yeah. Yep.
you can kind of say it in other ways. Like the way Deion Sanders took over Colorado and had like his little press conference, which I honestly thought was like a little corny and like whatever, like a little over the top, like, hey, some of you guys aren't going to be here, this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. Like, if you wear a hat backwards, like, don't show up, like, type deal. Well, he was wearing a backwards hat. I feel like that's a part that you need to mention, but you know that coach isn't going to put up with you making a guy run naked to
Yeah. Yep.
compromise the team. Like that
Right.
standard was set in that meeting, like his first show up. And I think honestly, if you take over a team, you're like, hey guys, like especially in the climate that we are in today, I don't even think it's like an outrageous thing to put out there is like, hey, the hazing extent is gonna go to carrying footballs, like you said.
And
Like,
like there's probably like more clever things that you can do, like you said, like singing in front of shit. Like
yeah,
if you show up, 30 seconds late for something, you got to sing something to in order to like be allowed in the room or whatever. I get that shit. Like, and to some extent, like that little embarrassing stuff is pretty team building because they've all kind of been in a situation where they're not comfortable and like now
Yeah.
like this guy can be like, you fuckers made me do this, and like, and it's not bad that he's like like fucking
Yeah.
emotionally scarred over it for the rest of his life, but it was embarrassing in the moment, right?
Yeah. And it's almost like empathy building, which is like a good characteristic
Yep.
to build. Like, because say you're running late because your car didn't start that morning and you show up late and you have to like sing to get in the room or whatever. So like when you see a guy show up late and they have like some circumstance, like whether it's like their kid was being a shithead, you'd be like,
Yep.
I get it. Like whatever,
Yep.
you have to do that, but like it is what it is.
Yeah. So Northwestern acting like fools. A guy who is definitely not a fool, but been racing like a fool for the last couple of weeks. Martin Truex Jr. We're moving on to driving fast and turn left. Finished 29th this week. Not great. He
Again, Jesus
no
Christ,
32nd last week, 32nd, and then 29th
I
2 weeks
that's
ago.
what I'm saying though. We're in the bottom fucking 25 again.
Yeah, now we're but we're still third in the standings, so we're doing all right.
Man,
Anyway,
it
Martin
seems like
Truex Jr.
he's
probably going to win this week. He's just
he's
waiting for the chase, waiting for the chase.
I don't know about that, man. He's resting on his laurels or loyals or whatever
I
they
think it's I think it's laurels, but I don't know what that means.
I do not know what that means at all. But yeah, he needs to get back to driving faster and turning left a little bit harder because 2 weeks in a row in the bottom. How many racers are there? Like he's got to be in the bottom
Usually about
five.
36 or 37.
Okay. So I mean he's in the bottom 10 for sure. And in that.
All right, moving on. We're going to hit the brain drain and we're going to take a look at things Pat wrote down in his cell phone for the podcast that didn't make it to the podcast, or maybe just wrote down in general.
Yeah, no, they're all on my phone. So we did the Wisconsin Sports Mount Rushmore. So this one is a special tip. So if you've been listening to this long, someone told me that if you have the Subway app and you put BOGOFTL and you buy a foot long, you get one for free. So
I think that, yeah, they might have a buy one, get one deal right now.
okay, so that's in there. Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Wimbledon. This is to my wife's credit. So she got into the Breakpoint tennis show that we're talking about. And we've been following Ans Jabbar from Tanzania.
Tanzania.
I don't even know if that's right. I could
It's
point
right.
to it on a
Tanzania.
map. Okay, but anyways, so she's a beast. She made it into the final four. And that's been very enjoyable. And just watching tennis in general has been very enjoyable for me. But all I wanted to do is give a shout out to the last American man standing in the tournament, and it was Christopher Eubanks. And I won't lie, I didn't get to jump on his bandwagon until his final 3 matches. But I got to see him win 2 times and then take Daniel Medvedev. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
that guy.
that's
Yeah.
that
Exact pronunciation.
Yeah, into 5 sets where he could almost beat him in the 4th set. Hadn't lost a tiebreaker yet in the tournament. First tiebreaker he loses, pushes it to a 5th set, and then he gets his ass wiped in the 5th set. But anyways, Christopher Eubanks is the new official banging on the drum.
Who was the old
tennis
official banging on the drum tennis guy?
So we had Riley Opelka was
Oh, yeah.
one, And then last week, I was wrong with my announcement of saying Francis Tiafo. Even though Francis, you're still Frankie, you're still our boy, but Christopher Eubanks living this just a dream. He was definitely Cinderella. Like if you got into tennis, the I don't want to like jump in and be like, oh, I'm a big tennis fan or anything like that. But I was starting to get into it. And it was a true Cinderella story. This guy's 27 years old. He's never made a Wimbledon in his life. He's never qualified to make Wimbledon. So, he's just been grinding, playing tennis, and doing his thing. I want to say they said he's made $500,000. Or no, I think he made like $1 million playing tennis, which still kind of blows my mind. But in this tournament, just alone, he made $500,000.
Nice.
And he made it to the Elite Eight of Wimbledon. And he could have made it to the Final Four, but he didn't. And that kind of makes me sad. But it was a cool story. Moving on in my phone, I've been playing basketball a lot lately. And I'll just put on whatever music from my past and stuff. And then my Biggie Smalls phase came up, and it was just rolling through all my favorite Biggie songs, and the 10 Crack Commandments came on. And I think we need to make the 10 Pack Commandments if someone hasn't done that already. We might have to look that up, but the 10 Packer Commandments are going to be coming up through our show. And then, yeah, that's all I got from my phone. I thought there was more. I apologize that there's not more, but I have been rambling like a drunk lunatic, and I apologize to all you guys for that. But that's how we roll sometimes in the summer on this show. Do you have anything that you got in your brain drain?
Nothing in my brain drain except for if you're doubting the Brewers, the Packers, the Bucks, or the Badgers, or Martin Truex Jr., almost forgot him. You can eat our shorts. Roll it.
Like, subscribe, and download.